Your audio's not coming through.
Testing, testing.
There you go.
It's so weird. I didn't really do anything, so I'm not sure. I'm not sure how, man. Hopefully this works. Okay, we're gonna kick it off with the land acknowledgement. I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge that we are on the land we are on that we now call Springfield is located on the traditional indigenous homeland of the Kalapuya people. We acknowledge that the city of Springfield shares this history with the exclusion and erasure of many indigenous peoples, including the Kalapuya and those who first inhabited land on which we are located. We also acknowledge that the Kalapuya people are still stewards of this land and contribute to our history today. We can do a roll call real quick. We have Commissioner Kirk, Commissioner Donovan, excuse me, here, Commissioner Helmer, here, Commissioner Josephson,
here,
Commissioner Ridley. Oh, Commissioner Adam, I'm sorry, I don't have your last name in front of me. I need to learn your last name.
Howard.
Howard, thank you. And then Commissioner Celine, same. Can you tell me your last name?
last name Swenson Harris, and I'm here.
Thank you. I'm writing that down. Great. So we have quorum, which is awesome. I'm going to share, I guess it makes it easy actually for me joining remotely to share screen. So today, can you see my screen?
Yes, now
Now you can see it. Okay, great. All right. Today we have mostly going to work on our budget and our work plan. Kind of brainstorm where to go. We have some new updates on that, so that's good. We're going to talk about the vice chair position and then some committee updates, subcommittee updates. Jenna, if you could help me remember if there's anything from the awards subcommittee that we want to update the group on. And some other little logistics at the end. So is there anything that anybody needs to add or would like to address the agenda? Great. Do we have any public comment business from the audience? No. I'm going to try to see if I can make you guys bigger. All right. How about can we do introductions for Victoria?
Oh, I'm Victoria. I'm your new city councilor liaison. So I'm really not sure what I'm going to be doing here. So I'm just going to kind of listen and get a feel for it. And I think, did you and I serve on a committee before, I think, Community Development Advisory Committee a few years ago. Anyway, you look familiar.
I'm around a lot.
Anyway, nice, happy to be here.
Yeah, nice to have you, Victoria. So what's your role at the city?
What do you mean? I'm city council.
Oh, city councilor. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, because I am a land use review assistant for the city of Eugene. So I work with, I actually get paid at that job. That's my paying gig. So I just do this one for fun. Nice.
That's great. So happy to have you. I'm sorry, I had flipped it in my head and thought that there was another staff representative. So nice to have you joining us. And welcome to the city council. There you go. For your background, we just started the Historic Commission just started our first work plan kind of to help guide what we do as a commission this last year. And we're kind of refining that process a little bit and how we want to implement things. And we get a budget each year from the State Historic Preservation Office. But it's at like an 18-month cycle. Actually, it's not each year. And so we are kind of at a halfway point for that. And so at this point today, we're kind of doing a revisit of what we said we were going to do. So it's a great first meeting for you to be joining us. You can kind of hear about things we've talked about doing. And we'll be looking at our budget, what's left, and what we need to do by the end of this year, by September, in September, actually, I think, or August. August and September. So great, nice to have you. Tom, I think we don't have any historic land use application updates, do we?
Nope, no active applications. There's been inquiries for various properties, 306 C Street, just off the top of my head. There was one gentleman inquiring about putting a new foundation under it and everything he would have to go through to do that. Yeah,
Okay, so potential purchasers.
yes.
Awesome. Okay, great. That means we have lots of time to work on it. So I have this little budget created. What you can see, I'll run through this all with you first, and then we can open it up for some discussion. What I have in this column right here I've highlighted is what we budgeted for each project, including the additional funds that we got from the TLG grant, because we asked for a certain amount and then they gave us a lot more. So we have about $15,000 or $15,700 to spend. And so this includes kind of the adjusted amount based on that increased grant amount. What we spent so far is very minimal. So Tom, you and I should connect a little bit, because the things that are showing here are things I'm aware that have been spent, but they're not reflected in the budget you sent me, because I think our budget doesn't include any expenses so far. So I'm not sure where. I know we paid for historicfunding.com and we did the National Trust for Historic Preservation membership back when Melissa was here, but I don't know why that's not showing up in our grant. So that must have been paid for out of someone else's budget, maybe. I'm wondering.
Good.
So we can look into that. Otherwise, other things that we spent is the awards program. Thank you, Jenna. Sent some reimbursements for that today. So we'll have just over $1,000 coming out for that. And then $250 have been spent from this year's cycle towards our consultant. And so we have $1,750 still that consultant support. And that is our consultant who helps us with review of the applications within the historic district. So because we have Victoria here with us, real quick, I'll run through and just refresh what our projects are. Our first project that has a budgeted amount is the big one. It's a reconnaissance level survey, and we had designed this so that we would do it in 2 phases. So this is supposed to be phase 1, and it's basically looking at historic documentation of the houses within the Washburn Historic District. And we have a survey completed, but it's outdated. And so it has been on our list of things to do for a really long time to get that inventory updated and current, and includes more relevant information for us. And that would help us with our land use review that comes through. That we're required to kind of provide comment on. That would provide us some better information to do those reviews. So that is, we put in $4,500 for that item based off of an original estimate we got from a consultant who is in Albany. That consultant has moved out of the state and is no longer providing services in our area. So we have gone back to the drawing board on that. We have gotten one estimate. Actually, 2 other consultants have told us that it's at about 15 to 20,000, and then a third consultant gave us an actual more specific proposal that I put notes in here on, that we are looking at for the 4,500, we could do 50 resources within the historic district, and we could strategize whether we want those to be which resources we want to focus on. Then the second phase, if we broke it up, the second phase would be $22,000 to include the other 285 houses or resources in the district. And there'd be a little bit of an efficiency, I think. Yeah, there'd be a little bit of efficiency if we just did it all at once. And that would be $25,000 for them. So, Charlotte, you want to expand on that a little bit?
Sure. I don't know about you, Christina, but I had a little bit of sticker shock with some of these proposals. I did not expect it to be that high. But it's not a small district, and the primary cost is labor. Almost all of that goes to the staff time. It's not like a high tech undertaking, but it does take a lot of time to get that data. So there is kind of another option that we haven't really fleshed out yet, which is actually came as a recommendation from one of the consultants that actually declined to submit a formal bid because they said, look, I think we're just going to be too expensive, but we do recommend that you consider contracting a graduate student or somebody who's very early career. So we haven't done the groundwork yet to kind of identify, talk to specific students or recent graduates to see if they'd be interested in doing this. And we haven't really discussed it, but that's another option if we really find that we need to be able to do more on a smaller budget. I've got a list of names of folks and we can explore that option. But if we can find the funding to proceed with an established firm, that's still, I think that's still going to be a useful tool. Their deliverable we can tailor it to make it something that really helps us be as effective as we can be in our jobs.
Thanks, Charlotte. And Charlotte was super helpful in reaching out to different firms and sitting in on phone calls and helping figure this all out. So thank you, Charlotte. Brian.
Yeah, we've kind of had back and forths about whether or not this would be a threat to the historic district integrity or not. Have we gotten any more specific guidance on whether or not continuing to put off the RLS might long-term threaten the status of the historic district?
Good question. Charlotte, you can answer if you'd like.
That's interesting. I thought I know in our meetings with the consultants, we talked about what the scenario would look like if we did the survey and the result of the survey recommended that the district is no longer intact. But we didn't talk about the consequences of not doing a survey and just not having that information. I'm actually not sure how to speak to that. I don't remember our colleagues at the SHPO expressing any concern that we would lose our district status.
I don't either. And I kind of second that. I don't have a sense that they need us to do it. It was more of a commissioner desire to have more information.
Mm-hmm. And in terms of the conversations we've had with consultants recently, what we talked about is that they would produce a document that provides recommendations of eligibility and character defining features. Everything in their report would be a recommendation to the commission, and including things that could be updated in our National Register nomination. But we were not proposing to go through a process of updating the National Register status, which involves getting through compliance at the state level and then getting to the national level. And it can be done, but we were thinking that in the interest of trying to get the most useful tool at the smallest budget, that we would just seek a document that provided recommendations to the commission. So we could then decide whether we wanted to move forward with those recommendations or not.
Other options to think about for this. So we have $4,500. I think our options are start with 50 resources, option A. Option 2, explore a university student, which could mean that, you know, that $4,500 could be questionable. Like we should come up with a plan B if we end up not using that $4,500. And then we also would need to determine, I think, if we were going to go that route, if it met the qualifications of SHPO's requirements for the grant. There are some requirements about who can do what. Seems like they would allow for a student as long as they're following the proper procedures, but we just want to double check that. And then option 3 would be four options. Option 3 would be to write a grant so that we could use our $4,500 and possibly buffer it with other funds that become available in our grant. And then write a grant for match. And so there's those grants through the National Trust for Historic Preservation that we could pull from and see if we could double our money and get a little further. And we could put that off and we could do it next time again, which we've done a few times now, but we have more information to work from than we have had in the past. And so I think we could more accurately plan for it in the future if that's something we wanted to table. So several options. Brian, you want to speak?
Yeah, one more thing I wanted to flag when we start talking about numbers this big with one firm, the City of Springfield Code section 2.708. 3B talks to general personal service contracts exceeding excess of $10,000. And so there are specific advertising requirements that we definitely want to check with legal on that I do not know if we have met. And so if we were to put it off, I don't know that we might have additional work to get more bids that are less informal and have an actual advertising process for this particular process.
Thanks, Fran. Yeah, that was somewhat on my radar as well. At this point, we do have 3 quotes. They're informal quotes at this point, and so we'd have to talk to city staff. I think we're at an information gathering point, so we can still look into that going forward. Jenna, I see a hand up.
So just to, I don't know, throw a different direction out there as an option, but I know you've done a lot of work on this. Would there be any value in just like splitting the district in half, throwing all this money at just getting half of it done? Like, I do feel like we just keep kicking this can down the road, and every single grant cycle, we just keep laboring over this. Can we just, like, you know, rip off the Band-Aid, put whatever 12.5 towards it now to do half of the entire resurvey, and then put 12.5 towards it potentially in the next round? And yes, it would still trigger whatever the requirements for an advertisement potentially, but
I think we could do that, and our consultants indicated that winter is their favorite time to survey because the trees are not in, fully, leafing and blocking views. So they indicated that they have a capacity to get going on this if we want to proceed. They also indicated that, the cost estimate describes being able to do 50 properties for $4,500. We don't have, there's a couple different ways we can identify those 50 properties. So it could be an area of the district, or it could be a category of properties. For instance, as described in the National Register nomination, we could say, we want you to look at the ones that are eligible contributing, or maybe we want them to look at the ones that were originally considered not eligible and let us know if that's still accurate. So there's a couple different ways we could spread that money around.
And I think I have to look back, but with that kind of in mind, I asked them to provide some information that would allow us to break it down almost per house kind of cost, so to give us an idea of like how many houses we might be able to get if we wanted to expand our budget. So for example, tonight we decided we wanted to put $10,000 of our budget towards it. We might be able to go back and get an idea, closer to idea of how many houses or resources we could do with that, and then strategize from there what those are. But again, that also comes from the firm who provided the highest quote, significantly. So I don't know, we might want to re-strategize and put it out there for the city's advertising requirements and see what we got back one more time if we have to. Brian.
Yeah, I like Jenna's idea about splitting it up. My gut instinct though, especially hearing Charlotte say that the firms like to do it when the trees don't have leaves. My gut instinct would be to authorize like $999 for this, so that we do not exceed that 10,000 number, so that we don't have to go through advertising. I was reading a little more. It looks like we would have, the city would have to put together criteria to evaluate bids through. It seems like we may be past the winter time. And so that would be my preference is, yeah, I agree. I don't really want to kick it either, but not exceeding that. If we're going to go, if the question is 12,000 versus 999,000, or sorry, I wish, $9,999, I would pick the 9,999 personally.
Good thought. And that would just mean that the next time we would need to keep in mind that we will be going through that process. So we'll just have to figure out, be prepared for that next time. So let's pause on that, because that's good conversation and thought. I want to make these decisions with the context of everything else that we've talked about doing too. So let's go through those other ones as well, and then we can come back to this because this is our biggest one, I think. We have our ongoing support for our consultant. So by For Architecture, she last time we prepaid her with our last grant cycle. She has gotten through all those hours at this point in time and is now starting to bill us out of this grant cycle. So she has spent $250 only so far, and we have $1,750 remaining for her, which is great. If we have remaining funds for her at the end, we can do a similar thing. We can pay her out and document those hours as hours she is going to work off of in the coming time. So we could also decide that we want to use those hours for training, which is another thing we've talked about. If there's a certain topic or issue that she has some expertise, she said she'd be willing to come in and we could pay her an hour or two or whatever to come in and do a training. Our awards program. So we had $1,000 dedicated towards this. Jenna has $1,012. Very good, very precise there. That she is getting reimbursed for. I believe the museum is still open to contributing $500.
I need to check.
In theory on that, so we could check on that. The big question mark on this one is that we have another awards program coming up this spring. It's likely not totally confirmed yet, but it's, Jenna, how do you feel about that? Should we be planning for that?
I was doing the number crunching backwards from the date of wanting to present at council in May for Preservation Month. And that time goes real fast between now and then. I don't know that it's actually feasible for us to do it in May based on the timeline of like launching the nominations. Basically, the latest we could launch the nomination call for nominations would be March 1st. So we basically have 1 month to, do any revisions to the nomination process, forms, evaluations, criteria, et cetera, and get that all vetted by council and like Amber and the mayor, and it seems tight.
Yeah.
But whatever, I don't know. We could do a lot of promotion about it in May and have it happen in June. That could still work, right? I don't know. But yes, in terms of the cost of the second round, we paid $600, 300 apiece to do the molds for the medallions, which we'd never have to do again unless we substantially change the design. So basically our next year's budget, if we gave out 5 awards, would be that minus 600. So it would only be like $400 to make the awards.
So where did that $1,200 come out of?
The
If
1012, the 1012, because that was, we had to make the molds this year
Uh-huh.
because they're cast brass, right? So we had to make the molds and have the awards fabricated. So next
Okay.
year we don't have to make new molds. We can reuse the molds.
Yeah, I got that. So I think I'm confused though, because you said it was $600 for each of the molds. Which
That's
is,
300 for each, so it was 600 total for the molds.
got it. Okay, sorry. There we go.
Yeah.
All right, so, yeah, so it seems like either way, we want to budget for it, so we have that money there.
If we put $500 in the budget, that could account for a 6th medallion and snacks for the jury.
Yeah. Well, my other thought was if the museum's willing to go kind of halvesies on this, like we had talked about originally, then this amount that we've spent gets cut in half. And then we would have $500 remaining roughly for the next cycle, which if the museum is willing to go in again, we should be good. So that's kind of a question mark, but I'm gonna put a 0 there for now, but you know, just a placeholder, as in that money will just be shared. We could put a little bit more money towards that, certainly, because I think we could have used maybe a little more buffer there to provide an award ceremony kind of thing, or snacks and drinks and that kind of stuff. I don't know if our funds can actually go towards that, is the other things to look into. So I'm gonna put in.
I just texted Maddie, see what she says.
Awesome, so we'll have an answer soon. Okay, we'll keep moving on. Support partner efforts, so this was the one that got a little bit shifted from what our original vision was. I think we wanted to provide some, we knew that there was some potential preservation efforts coming down the line for some significant buildings in our area, and we wanted to be able to provide some funds to help assist moving towards efforts that might lead to getting these resources listed. William Lane has one of those that they've put on the table for the Great Jaqua House. And their original proposal was $1,000 that we had included, and then we added another $3,000, thinking that there might be others that might come forward. After the grant was awarded, I was reading through the grant guidelines as a refresher, and this one requires an ILS to be provided to SHPO as part of the conditions of the grant. So it's has a specific deliverable tied to it, and it has to be done per SHPO standards. That kind of narrows down the type of projects that might be available for that. But when we talked about it last month, we wanted to do a little more due diligence and see if there's other folks in the community who might still be thinking about doing that work, that might still be interested in this this little fund here. That was one. I don't know if anybody's been able to do any more research. I unfortunately have not been able to do more. I had wanted to look more into the Black Church a little bit, and Glenwood was one of them. And I know that the administration building, the previous administration building on Mill Street was another one that was talked about. So any updates from commissioners on those?
I didn't do that homework.
I know it's hard. Okay, so we have $4,000 there. We have the $1,000 dedicated to William Lane. And then Eric came back and asked, based on the change in requirements, it increased their project fee to $4,000 additional cost he's asking for in order to complete the ILS portion of that, because what they were proposing to do originally was a condition assessment and eventually the hope is to list the house, I know, but it wasn't a full ILS that was gonna be done. So to bring it up to an ILS, 5-4 Architecture is actually doing that project as well. It was proposed that additional work is an additional $3,000, so. So that proposal's on the table. We have that to consider and vote on tonight, hopefully. HistoricFunding.com, those funds were already spent. National Trust for Historic Preservation membership was purchased, I believe. I'm curious whether that membership has expired. And we may need to renew if we want to, if that's something that we can talk about, whether that's something we want to just pay every year and budget for annually. So we haven't, to my knowledge, that we haven't really utilized that membership, the educational resources on it, but the one benefit it does provide is allowing us to go for their grants. But we could just wait and we could say, if we're going to go for a grant, we'll get the membership at that time. So we can figure that out. Postcards and envelopes. So we have mailers. Jenna designed these beautiful mailers about the Washburn district. We have sent them out before. This time around, we had $1,500 dedicated to this, and we already had the postcards printed. So we were able to get that sent out in the Eugene magazine. So we no longer have that expense. So my understanding, Jenna, based on your last email, is that if we wanted to, we could use these funds to print more postcards since we're out of them, potentially, and shift the approach from using these funds to mail. We could actually print more. So.
Yeah, we can print them, you know, in various size batches. It's just through an online printing service.
So last time it was 10,000. We got 10,000 of them for $18.55, and we have $1,500 dedicated here. So this would be probably less than 10,000, but we can modify our budget if we wanted to for that. Put 2,000 there. I'm going to do that right now, just as a proposal. We'll come back to that. Training. We have $1,500 there. That's something we can talk about. I think we should probably keep that in there based on some interest. But I'll put that in as a proposal, and we can hear if anybody has any suggestions for modifying that. And then last but not least, I got a request from the museum. This is not included in our grant, so I'd have to confirm that it was eligible, but they are out of the printed versions of the walking guides. There's 2 walking guides. One of them is for the Washburn Historic District. One of them is a downtown walking guide, and they're completely almost out of the downtown walking guide one, almost out of the Washburn District one. And our hope is to make this transition into a digital, like Esri story map kind of walking tour thing. But until that happens, it would be great to get them some more walking guides that they can hand out. I mean, regardless, I think some people like the printed copies of them. So I had Central Blueprint put together an estimate for us. If we did 250 of each of those, it would cost us $500. If we wanted to do 500 of them, it would cost us $935. So, and it gives us an idea if we wanted to include that in our budget. We had some wiggle room last time, so I threw that in there as a proposal, since we like to be good partners to our museum. So I'll tentatively put in the $500 here. And so what I'd like to do is to fill in some other spots here and kind of see where we're at. And then we have the big decisions we really have to make tonight are hopefully RLS, what we want to do about the Washburn district, and the $4,000 for the support partner efforts. Any questions, thoughts, proposals?
I think it would probably make more sense to do more of the walking tour guides and reduce the number of postcards, like do the 935, if we're allocating the funds and we're not gonna blow it all on a survey. I would say more of the walking tour guides, because there's two of them. I even hand them out all the time. I know the museum hands them out all the time. I think there's some at the art center, there's some at City Hall, like they're handy. And I mean, that last printing has probably, I don't know when that was, a long time ago. That last printing was a long time ago.
Okay, great.
I'm just curious, how accurate is your list? Like, there's a lot of times where you do these large mailings and then you get a ton of them back. And so I'm curious what the postcard is and then what your return rate is on those.
The postcard itself was just an insert in the mailing. So even though it's a postcard, it was in an envelope with a letter. So that was mailed to all of the current Washburn addresses. So anybody that owns a home in the district, and it's, as well as it was emailed, or it was mailed to the current list of the Eugene area realtors mailing list. So all the realtors and that were part of that organization, and all of the residents or tenants in the
So the
Washburn
tenants,
district.
not the owners.
Well, just whoever is in the house.
Yeah, because that
Yeah.
seems, that sometimes can be an issue because if the owner of the home is the one that doesn't get the information they're renting.
Yeah,
Let's say
well,
to somebody.
I guess
I'm
I'm
just
not
curious.
100%. Maybe it was mailed to the owner. But either way, the intent of it, it was just sort of an informational thing. So the postcard itself is just a little map of the district. It's cute. You can stick it on the fridge, whatever. You can give it to somebody who's curious about the Washburn neighborhood. We'll drop them off just at the coffee shops downtown so people can pick them up. They're a good takeaway. On the back, then it says, you know, Washburn Historic District is cool, basically. And like, if you want to know more about it, check out these places. If you're a homeowner, there are resources available. You're taking on the responsibility of stewardship of this property by owning this property. And if this applies to you, check out these other resources because it's important. And so the reason that we tried to mail it also to the realtors is that they are regularly, you know, advertising homes, and they may not be educated or educating their clients accurately about like allowable alterations, for example, like window replacement. You know, they might be like, oh, it's, you know, no problem. You just like swap out the windows. Okay, you know, be like, actually do your research. You know, there's research that needs to happen there. So it's basically, yeah, informative, and then there's additional ones available for the realtors at the realtor's office. So if they're advertising a house, they can put them on the counter, you know. So, and then for the residents themselves, then it's the same kind of, you know, oh, you live here or you own this place, just so you know, like, it's awesome, or this is a great neighborhood, but you're also taking care of a historic place. So
Out of 10,000, how many do you think you get returned?
I have no idea. I don't know. I guess they would come back here because they were mailed by the city. I'm guessing the realtor ones probably didn't get returned, like most of them. It's a pretty current mailing list, like from the Realtors Association. And then, because it's only their active members and they're constantly having to update their membership. So residents, I don't know. I don't know how we would know that. I don't know where the return mail arrives at the city. Like, is the interface, is there a mail room? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, they should be getting that back to you guys. You would know.
Yeah, that's a good question.
$300 or $400, it's a lot, you know, out of a $1,800 budget, so just curious. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, the 1800 was just the printing. The mailing was on top of that, right? Or
Yeah,
was
see,
that?
that's what I'm saying, it's gonna be expensive.
Right.
Yeah, I think the whole mailing and the envelopes and everything was more.
Yeah, and I think I don't remember if we talked, I can't remember what we decided. This is terrible. I always forget. But whether we decided to mail them out again this next time or use them more as having them available for people to grab, more opportunistic postings.
Yeah, I don't know that we need to do a full mailing again so soon.
Yeah. Okay, it is nice to have a big stack of them though.
Yeah. If we do one mailing per grant cycle, our grant cycles are like 18 months, then that seems like plenty.
Yeah.
Then the next grant cycle, if we want to do another full mailing, we could budget for that, but we've already done one that's in this one, right? And if we're not mailing, we don't need as many.
Okay. Any other questions or thoughts?
Maddie did say that they are giving us $500.
Awesome. Okay, so we're set on that one then. So our expense will be 511. It's very specific. I'm gonna put another $500 in there. Should we say, I mean, I would propose that we maybe consider putting $600.
Then we can do snacks for Art Walk.
Yeah, as pending the allowance of the grant. Okay. So this number here is total of what we are spending. And then just so you know, this is our total grant. And then this, I'm trying to remember how I have this set up. This number, I'm just going to, yeah, this number also subtracts things from this column. So we have no money left, but it is still subtracting. Sure, got this set up right. Okay. So, what about supporting partner efforts? I am removing myself from decisions on this because I work for William Lane. But we have one proposal on the table. We could, options would be, I will state, unless anybody else has an additional option. $1,000 go to William Lane. Those other $3,000 could potentially get reallocated to a different item grant. The second option would be $4,000 goes to William Lane for their request for the additional, for the additional increase in the ILS. I do know that William Lane will probably still proceed with the ILS regardless, is likely, and they would still be able to be eligible for that $1,000. I have kids in my house, so I'm gonna get interrupted here for a few minutes. So option one, $1,000 to William Lane. Option two, we grant them the request for the full $4,000. Option three, I guess would be to hold off and see if that other $3,000 could still be utilized for another person if we still think there might be interest. Is there another option I'm not thinking of? Anybody?
Or do 2 to William Lane and 2 for another applicant.
In theory, that could be an option as well. Yeah. Brian, did you have a suggestion?
Yeah, remind me, can we move things in between? We can move things in between subcommittees, right? So we could just give William Lane the original 1,000 that we gave them and then move the remainder up to the RLS, correct?
Mm-hmm. We could.
And that would give us approximately $7,266 for an RLS.
So if we put in $1,000 for William Lane, we would have $7,000. I think I have everything filled in. Yeah, we'd have $7,000 for the RLS.
I personally am supportive of that more than anything else, unless we think William Lane is going to reject our 1,000 because it then subjects them to an ILS, in which case, you know, that would cause some problems for us, I guess. But I would be in favor of the 1,000 to William Lane, as we already allocated, and the remainder to an RLS, not to exceed $9,999.
Okay. Any other proposals or ideas?
I feel like we could knock that postcards down to like $750 and put the rest of it towards the survey also. And then we're getting, like, how can we get to that 999?
Well, there's a training budget.
I would, it's pretty minor, but that historic walking guide, it seemed, I don't think 250 doesn't sound like a lot of guides. And so if we could maybe go with the 930 or the 500 at the 935 and take a little bit of that out of the support partner efforts or something, because to me, these things are at the museum and also another place, right? They're
Yeah, they do.
250 doesn't sound.
Yeah, and the
Huh?
number I have 1,000 in there now, so that covers 500 of each of them. So the $1,000 in there would cover 500.
Oh, okay. Well, then
I adjusted that already.
Okay.
But yeah, there's.
I'm running some math. I don't, can you click on the bottom of that adjusted remaining budget? Like, or sure, what our actual, okay, no, I must be doing my math wrong. Sorry.
Yeah, no problem. I'm glad you're double checking. That's always good. I see a hand is at schooling back of the room.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask on the component around the allocation to Willamette, are we confident that they would still go through with the requirements to be eligible for our grant funding, even if we don't assist with that cost?
If we didn't assist, like give them any funds,
No,
Sorry.
I mean, in terms of if we're giving them 1,000, the additional 3,000 they're asking us for is partially for, or it sounds like maybe entirely for an expense that has to do with meeting the terms of our grant.
yeah,
I just wanted to get a sense of if they would
Yeah.
stick with that, because then we can't give them we can only give them that $1,000 if they would.
right,
still-
right, yes. Very good question. And I originally, I did say, I believe that Willamette will do that. I can't say with confidence that they will do that, because that means that they're increasing their project cost by $3,000. So I guess I would need to confirm that before I could say that for sure.
And I think my follow-up then would be, because my understanding is we're adopting this budget this evening, would just be to understand how much freedom we have to then either reallocate that 1,000 or find additional funding for Willamette, if that's,
Mhm.
I don't want something in our budget we can't spend.
Um, I'm putting that question in here for. All right, good. Thoughts? Anybody else? What about the idea of going out for grant match? Does that seem real? We've never done that as a commission, so I just wanted to throw that out there. And I think I like the idea of it, and it seems like there's probably, especially with the National Trust for Historic Preservation, some grants that were kind of designed for this kind of stuff in mind. And they have, one of theirs is a 3-time-a-year kind of small grant type of deal, where it's, I can't imagine it would be that much work to submit, but I haven't gotten into the weeds of that quite yet. I was curious if people are interested in pursuing that. There's a capacity thing. There's probably some logistics and coordinating with the city. Tom, I don't know if you have any ideas on that. Like, if we might get some pushback from the city as far as going out for a grant.
Not that I'm aware of, just off the top of my head. If that's any different from the list that Curry has provided to me for upcoming grant workshops, which I was going to get registered up for. There's a handful of various grant workshops they were going to have, so I don't know, I would need to see specifically what this match would entail.
Yeah. And it seems like timing wise, we maybe shouldn't depend on a grant for this cycle, but it might be something that if we were being proactive for our next round. For example, if we wanted to complete a reconnaissance level survey with whatever portion of funds, like $10,000, but we knew that we were going to need to go out for some match in order to complete the rest of the RLS. So we could start that earlier. So I think
It now, then for the next grant cycle, if we were informed enough to be able to, like, if we could put $8,000 towards the survey now, and that leaves us whatever 13 remaining to do the full survey, then, you know, maybe the next grant cycle, we can put in $6,500 and get a grant match for $6,500 or something, right?
mhm. Yeah.
And not for nothing with that 8,000 there, if we put the remaining roughly $900 in there, we do get almost halfway to what Willamette Lane has requested. You know, that's not nothing.
I'm sorry, say that again.
It looks like we have about, or sorry, $1,100 remaining. So if we put that remaining $1,100 into the support partner efforts for Willamette Lane. Oh, sorry. Oh, I am so sorry. I was reading the wrong numbers.
$16.
$16.
One thing I wonder if we could do, there is some question mark around this $1,000, it looks like still. I think tonight, if we wanted to, we could propose to adopt, like update our budget based on this, with the understanding that maybe any additional funds that are remaining, because sometimes there might be like $100 in the walking tour guide, we might have $500 left in our training budget. We might only end up printing, you know, like, and that might add up to another $1,000 or something. You know, our awards program might not be able to use the funds for food. Our consultant, I don't know, we could choose to pull from our consultant funds too. I don't know, but that, in order to not, the part I'm a little afraid of is because I really want to use all of our grant funds. So if there is something that we can use, whether it be the partner support or maybe even one of the printing things that we hold off into the last minute and use as our whatever's left, we end up just using the rest of our funds to do that last project. So I think we could use the partner support one and just have Willamette get reimbursed later. We could also do postcards, would be one, unless we think we're going to need them sooner. For walking guides, I guess. Brian.
I would like to make a motion.
Okay.
I would like to approve the remaining adjusted budget line with the provision that any remaining funds be spent on the Willamette Lane Park and Recreation District project they have proposed to us.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Can I amend it slightly? Amend the amend. Can we
Go for it.
approve the adjusted remaining budget column as shown with the caveat that any remaining funds are put back into the Willamette Lane thing? But if Willamette Lane decides that they cannot take less than a $4,000 amount, that the $1,000 that allocated to Willamette Lane actually goes into the reconnaissance level survey, as well as the remaining other trickly bits, up to not exceeding $9,999.
I love it.
All right, we have a motion that I'm not gonna repeat. Do we have a second? Does anybody want a clarification on that motion? Any seconds?
I have a, I, I must have missed something. The reconnaissance, the budget's 4,500. And now, how did that 8,000? I'm, yeah, I'm sorry. I don't,
I wonder if you're not.
I wasn't listening, I'm sure, how that,
Can you see column F on your screen, Kirk? It's highlighted.
yeah, yes,
Okay, so this is the line, this is the adjusted budget that we're working from now. So $8,000
Yeah.
is for the reconnaissance level survey. $1,750 is for the application review. $600 for the award, $1,000 for supporting partner efforts. We've already expended a few expenses over here that are also getting kept. Postcards, training, and the walking guide are all captured. Those are the adjusted numbers that we're voting on right now.
okay, but I
It's okay.
He isn't realizing that you're pulling from the other ones.
So the 14,000 plus the 1,097,
Yes,
which is already spent, doesn't add up to the, does it add up to the 15,713? No, it doesn't, right? I mean,
it adds up to $16.
if the 16 is the $16, is that what I'm missing?
Yep, it's just $16
Yeah.
different.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes, I think I'll ask you tomorrow maybe to send me a copy of this so I can, but I think it makes sense, yeah. Maybe I'll call you tomorrow. Well, I won't be home tomorrow, but whatever. I'll get it to you.
Happy to walk through it with you. Celine, did you have a question?
No.
No. All right, so I'm going to repeat what Jenna said, just for reclarification, and we're looking for a proposal she's putting on the table, a motion. If we have a second, then we'll vote on it. So for this motion, we are motioning for approval of the reconnaissance level survey for $8,000, whatever we can accomplish with $8,000. Application review, the remaining portion of that contract, which would be $1,750. The awards program would get $600. This partner support would get $1,000. Postcards would get $750 for new printing of postcards. We would have $1,500 available for training and $1,000 remaining for historic walking tour guides production. That total amount would be $14,600. Any remaining funds from that would go towards, including the $16, would go towards partner support efforts. And if Willamette cannot move forward on ILS with the $1,000 of support, then that remaining $1,000 or any additional funds would go to the RLS.
Not to exceed $9,999.
Exactly, thank you.
Second.
Okay, we have a second. All in favor?
I
Okay, we have anybody opposed? I see nobody, and I am not voting, so passes. Yay! That's good. It's nice to have this all up to date because it wasn't translating properly in my head. So from here, we have a couple of follow-up things we'll need to do. I think we need to go back to the drawing board on the RLS, if this is what we're gonna do. With the assumption that we have $8,000 to work with for now, and what we can accomplish with that. So Charlotte, are you willing to kind of maybe brainstorm based on what we've gathered so far, a good strategy there? What else? Partner supports, we need to notify William Lane that we are not providing the additional funds requested, but we'll be just be providing the original agreed upon $1,000, but they will be eligible for any remaining funds. So if they postpone their reimbursement request, we can give them an updated total going forward. Jenna, do you want to look at postcard production? Since you have that file, are there any updates we need to do to the postcard?
There's one, now Nancy Corver's phone number is still listed for the Washburn Historic District, like contact information, and I think maybe her email. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Great. Do you want to maybe to the next meeting for a review, since there's probably no immediate rush to get that printed, right?
No,
Should we look at it as a commission? So
yeah, we should. There's also, if we do want to get that email address, that would be good to put on there if we do that.
oh, right, yeah, good.
I also didn't tell you that I have to leave early tonight, so now that we got that vote done, I gotta do that. But thank you. Let me know if you assign me anything.
Thank you for being here. I will follow up on the printing of the walking guides. I have that, they already have it queued and ready to go. So now that we have an approved budget, I'll just make sure that this is approved by SHPO. So we don't get a surprise later that it's not an eligible cost, and then I have to beg Tom to get some help. And then the last thing, I guess, that's fairly undefined still is the training budget. So I don't know, we could open that up. We have maybe 10 minutes here. We could spend chatting about training if anybody has any. Anybody done any research, found anything that's interesting, or want to talk about a good strategy for that $1,500?
I previously offered to contact a speaker who would probably be a good fit, and I still have not done the legwork on that. So I apologize, folks. I still don't have a quote, but I'll put it back on my list.
That's a good thought. I forgot about that. So eligible things to think about for this would be hiring a speaker, as Charlotte said. And if we did something like that, if it was virtual, we could attend it as a commission, but we could also open it up to any city staff who are interested. If there's a city councilors who are interested, we could open it up to partner agencies. We've done that before, like commissioners from Cottage Grove or Eugene, historic review boards, Albany. So we could bring other folks in to attend something like that, which is kind of nice because it makes it go further. We could also do conferences. So if anybody wants to look ahead at schedules for conferences, I think there's a couple in the fall, like in the summertime. That's usually conference time of year. I know there's some good ones out there, and there was a list. I'm not sure if we uploaded it. I sent somebody a list of possible trainings. Who was it?
It was me, and I said I'd expand that list. I haven't been able to do as much towards it as I would like to, but I certainly anticipate that soon.
Okay. Yeah, that's great. That's not it.
What I go to now, that shouldn't inhibit you because we haven't assisted you with defraying potential expenses. I'm assuming that we could use part of the training budget retroactively to help cost of attending or enrollment or whatever legitimate costs might be incurred from participating.
Yeah, I'm sorry you cut out there for a minute a little bit. Did you say you have one that you're enrolled in now?
No, I just said that we should be able to use the training budget retroactively to defray potential expenses.
Yes.
You have something now that you want to attend, then you should. And we should look at helping you.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with that. We just want to be aware that we only have $1,500. So there is that question of, you know, if there's 4 commissioners who'd like to fly to the East Coast for a training, the money will only go so far. And we have to be, somehow we have to come up with a way. We've never run out of money for training. This is one of the problems. We are all very busy people who like to volunteer for things. That's why we're here. So we overcommit ourselves, and actually attending a training ends up becoming very hard. But there has been a few times where people have attended, and I don't anticipate there's going to be a lot of competition, but it is helpful to know in advance if you are thinking of one, so we can just at least have that penciled in and be aware of making sure that we're, or you want, at least want to make sure that you're aware that you might not get fully reimbursed if other people are attending trainings as well. Brian.
Just to flag, there is the upcoming Oregon Heritage Summit, which was put on by SHPO end of April. I don't know if there's any cost. I know it will be virtual, and it looks like Kerr is the contact for that. So good to know. The theme this year is investing in your volunteers, engage, sustain, and value.
Great.
We don't have volunteers, I guess, except for us, but we could.
I attended one of those one year, and it was fun. So, nobody's interested. Yeah, I guess I'll just keep this as a standing thing on the agenda, and I think people, as you're, you know, finding things, will ask if anybody has any proposals for trainings on the agenda. Might be a good thing to keep on there. And make sure that we're accounting for those in our budget. Great. All right. So our next item, voting for vice chair. So we had Leslie McLeese was a recent commissioner who has now left the commission. And so we have a vacancy for the vice chair. Role of the vice chair in the past has been basically substituting for the chair as I'm not able to do it, and helping be somewhat informed, I think, on the agenda creation is helpful. And I would love it if there's somebody who's interested in collaborating on a little bit more on things like maybe divide and conquer a little bit on somebody's doing agenda creation and facilitation and coordinating the city stuff, and somebody else is kind of helping coordinate to make sure some of the work plan stuff is moving forward and tracking expenses or, you know, progress and things, and getting questions answered and getting stuff ready so that content's ready for the meetings. So if that's something, I don't think we have to define that right now. I think what we would love to have, I would love to have, is an excited person to work with me to be the vice chair and potentially think about the long term of the commission, because this is my last year on the commission for a year at least. I have to take at least a year off before I come out. So somebody would kind of help be there and help with that transition too, is the hope. So I will put that out there. Are there any nominations, either of yourself or of somebody else on the commission would be willing to be the vice chair? Of Celine's hand up.
I would like to nominate Commissioner Josephson.
Come on, Commissioner Josephson. Would you accept that nomination, Brian?
Sure, I will accept.
All right, any other nominations? All right. Excellent. Can we vote on Brian? I don't even know how to do a formal vote, so this is why we need Brian.
It's same thing. All those in favor still. And then
Okay.
opposed.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Excellent. Yay! Excellent. Thank you, Brian.
We'll touch base.
Okay. Sounds good. We have a few minutes to cover next steps and updates. Some committees, so we had attempted, as a refresher, to start a subcommittee process. I wanted to touch base and see how you all feel about keeping those subcommittees going, or if we should continue on as a large group. If you have any thoughts on that. And I'm mostly speaking, I think, to those who have been here would be Kirk and Charlotte and Brian, if either any of you have insights, having tried. I'm looking quickly at our work plan here too. I think the awards subcommittee is going to continue no matter what, because it's a it combines the museum committee and the historic commission, so that one has to be a separate subcommittee. But the two subcommittees would be the education and outreach, and then the resource development. Brian, did you have a thought?
Yeah, but it wasn't really formed. The problem, but no, I mean, I like the committees compared to how we did business before the committees. It tended to be a little more unwieldy. The thing I always worry about with committees is because the subcommittee is subject to quorum requirements themselves and public meeting requirements. I just always worry with the subcommittees about accidentally triggering a public meeting. But that's, you know, I'm sure the city attorney would tell me my concern is overblown.
Do you have any thoughts, Kirk or Charlotte?
No, I certainly think the one that Leslie was running was a good thing, but this history, I think. But you know, I don't. I'm hesitant to. I think maybe I'd be best if I talk to you in a day or two, just to catch up on this, because Christina, because I don't know personally.
That sounds good. Charlotte, did you have anything?
I think when we are able to get together in subcommittees, it's a great opportunity to do some work and really get into the weeds of things without, you know, the risk of including that business in our main meetings is that eventually folks are kind of going to glaze over if it's not a topic they're interested in. That said, I have very, very poor attendance at subcommittee meetings because it's just been very hard to get them for me to show up for those. So I don't feel like I am the right person to speak beyond that.
Well, the way we had it last time was we removed one of our commission meetings and replaced it with a subcommittee. And one of the challenges I faced as a chair was that we had multiple applications come through for review, and they ended up just dominating that subcommittee time that we were trying to reserve. So we would start off our meeting all together, and then it would be that we had to address this application, and it was more of a priority. And so it was challenging during that time to replace it. No, that was the intent. And part of the other intent of trying it was to relieve Tom or city staff in theory from having to participate in those, and city councilors. It's like one less meeting for them to have to attend, which hopefully is appreciated.
Well, if we're considering what kind of work sessions are the most fun, I think the most fun is these investigative information gathering side quests, where as long as we're just gathering information, it can be ad hoc, it can be interagency, and all things are possible. So that's become my favorite way to do commission business, to go out and learn something and come back and report.
Yeah, totally. All right, well, I'm not hearing a strong reason to maintain it for now, I guess. And so what I would propose is that maybe for the time being that we kind of put those subcommittees on hold and see if there's a reason at some point to create a subcommittee to support something. The other thing is like with Leslie gone, she was kind of trying to build some momentum with outreach. And we don't have a leader for that subcommittee currently, so it would involve somebody else having to step up and take some leadership. So if there's somebody who's feeling passionate about leading a subcommittee, I feel like that would be an easy thing to start doing. Now, are you all okay keeping it as is? We also have a couple new commissioners, so it's nice to, I think, go through and try to work on stuff together a little bit.
I'm okay with cutting them. I think
Okay,
it streamlines it.
yeah. All right, committee bylaws and handbooks on there. We don't have one created. That's why it's on there. Been on the list of things to do. It is in our work plan. It doesn't need to be in our budget because it doesn't require anything financially to support it. But it's been on my list of things to do. So Brian, maybe now that maybe you and I can put our heads together on that one and try to come back. I have some initial thoughts about an outline of what it could include. I started gathering stuff from like BPAC and other committees and commissions and what they use. So my thought, and Adam, you probably have some good insight on that too. But I was going to bring back, hoping to bring something to share with the commission that you guys can respond to. So not just us all working from scratch on that together.
The committee would like a copy of the museum's bylaws,
Oh, okay.
guide
Oh,
them
right.
in their development. I certainly could share that before the next meeting.
That would be great.
Post it to the Springfield Oregon Speaks. And that way, perhaps we could discuss it at the next meeting. And if there's specific language that people would like to include in the commission's bylaws, I think that that's certainly a topic that we should elevate for discussion. But I
Yeah.
think it should be something that we draft as a collective with all members' input.
Right. That sounds great. Would you be willing to share that with me ahead of time and I can put that and along with the other ones I've found together?
Yeah, absolutely.
That would be wonderful. All right. So we'll put that hopefully on the agenda for next time. End of year summary for council. So one of the ideas, this is another thing that's kind of on my list, but our work plan calls for hopefully getting to a point where at each end of each year or beginning of each year, we can go to city council and kind of say, hey, these are things we've accomplished. And it kind of helps us be accountable for somewhat completing things, but it also helps city council be familiar with who we are and why what we do. So examples of things might be, you know, we've reviewed so many applications, common things that we discuss relating to applications, just to kind of, you know, and enlighten them to things that we face on a day-to-day basis. We could talk about our postcard mailing, talk about the kickoff of the awards program this last year. And I'm sure there's a few other things. So I would like to start working on a summary and be able to take that to council and just kind of do a quick public comment, if that's the best time to do it, update on what we've been up to. Are there any thoughts? And specifically, I'm thinking of Councilor Victoria or Tom. If either of you have thoughts or feedback on how we approach something like that, it would be great.
Yeah, I can look into when would be a good time to go up in front of council for that, get an agenda item submitted to them.
Mm-hmm.
It's just public comment, we can figure that out.
Okay. Great.
It should be an agenda item, because if you do public comment, you get 3 minutes.
Okay.
So
Unless you think 3 minutes is enough.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, unless you want to rush through it.
Perfect
so.
to have our liaison.
Yeah, my impression is that it can be really challenging to get time on the agenda because there's so many things, but I guess that would be the question is if, I think 5 minutes would probably be enough if there was a spot on the agenda, and then that might allow us to put in kind of a work plan summary of what we accomplished in the year as part of the packet. But I don't know if that, the other question might be is, are other commission committees doing that, and are we opening a can of worms where I don't know, that's something Tom, you might have to give feedback on. They're open to us being on the agenda. We'll talk to Tom more about that. If we aim for like February as a time to get on there, I think that would be ideal because we're not too long out. So is anybody willing to attend a city council meeting and work with me / Brian on a list of accomplishments? Or volunteers. Jenna has done it in the past, and she might be willing to do it again.
Well, she is, and I can go.
Okay, that'd be great. All right, and then we have new recruitment coming up. Tom, can you remind us that schedule?
I'm not sure when they're opening that up. Do you?
What's that?
The new recruitment for committees? I know BPOC was doing, I think they had 2 seats coming up. I'm not exactly sure when they were going to be posting that. Early spring, from my understanding, but it's another batch recruitment for all the committees.
Oh, gotcha, okay, because they just did the planning commission and the budget.
Yeah,
So,
so this should be coming down the pipeline either February or March, I imagine.
Yeah, I
Do we
think
have a-
sorry, I'm trying to pull up. I stopped sharing my screen so I could actually look it up real quick. I think they're doing the interviews in March. Is what I saw. Getting ready for another round of recruitment. Oh yeah, I guess there's one. For some reason I saw something, I thought it was March. Anyways, keep that in mind. We have 1 seat open right now. So if anybody wants to invite anybody that they know that might be interested in information, we would love that seat. Historically have had kind of a low committee membership, and so I'm very excited that right now we actually have a pretty good group of folks, and I think we're going to get make some better progress. Been able to in the past. Brian.
Do we have a list of commissioners who are going to be up this cycle and who need to put in for that?
Jenna is going to be up for renewal, and she is going to do that this time. And she's actually expired, but they agreed to postpone her renewal until this next round. So she got a slight extension, but she was the only one that I'm aware of. Tom, do you remember anybody else?
No, I do have the roster listed in our historic commissioners little section there. If you wanted to pull that up, we could look at it quickly. If not, I'll check on it and send out an email.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot you put that on there. Okay, so it is Charlotte's to 24, Jenna's 23, Brian, you're 24, Kirk, you're 2024. I'm up this year, the end of the year. Karen's up 26. Celine and Adam are up 26. Should be good. All right. Thank you everyone for being here. Any last thoughts, questions, comments?
Christina, I have quite a few questions that I came up with as I was listening. Can I call you or have you call me sometime this week or something, just to have a 5 or 10 minute chat so I feel a little more like I'm
Yeah.
understanding?
Yeah. I'd love to.
Okay,
Um,
should I just call you Willamette Lane? Is that what I would do?
Yes. Let me give you, how do I give you my number? Without putting it on public
You
record.
can write mine down and text me.
Yeah. Tom can, he has my number in an email chat and he can probably connect us. I think it'd probably be the easiest.
Yeah, even if it's just email, be great.
Yeah. Okay, that sounds great. Awesome. Thank you, everyone. Again, 5:59. Woohoo. Pass the budget. Onward we go. Thank you.
Hi, everyone.
Have a wonderful week.
Thank you.